Larry, you want to come up here?
I ran into Jeff at the post office the other day, and I said, imagine getting bumped for the district governor. So that's just the way it goes, though, right? In the Rotary. She's coming to see us in Gladewater in a couple of weeks. So today, I'd like to welcome Coach Metzel here. He and I are having some conversations every now and then about things. So, but anyway, I'm glad he's here. He can straighten me out if I say something wrong. So, anyway, I'm glad to be here today. Of course, the season is in full swing, and like I can tell you most of the time when I come, is that I try to point out the rules that you might have a notion as to what's going on. There's a lot of things that change that you won't even, that are invisible to you. They're just kind of transparent. So, but I try to point out the things that I think that you'll actually see. So, and then I've got a couple other little things. If we've got some time, I'll show you a little bit about the replay booth, and we'll get into that if we've got some time, if you're interested. So, okay, no drones within a playing enclosure. So, believe it or not, Conference USA game, first week of the season in New Mexico, there was a drone flown over the field. Referee cleared the field. Nobody played it down until the authorities had to get the drone out of the area. So that's a new rule this year, but it actually happened in the first week of the season. So, but now you can have them in practice. You use a drone in practice, yeah. You can have them in practices and things like that. Now over at the Rose Stadium, John Tyler, I believe, or Legacy, or Tyler High School, I guess, and Legacy, a couple of years ago, they had a drone flying over during the game, but now you can't do it officially. When awarding a first down, the game clock only stops with less than 2 minutes in each half. So this is going to the NFL type rule, but it doesn't apply in the UIL. So you'll still, after a first down, they'll still kill the clock and then wind it, when the ball gets put in play. Or ready for play. Consecutive charge team timeouts are no longer allowed in the same dead ball period. So what that means is typically what you mostly see is when a field goal kicker at the end of the game was getting ready to kick a field goal, the team would call timeout. And they'd have their timeout. Then they'd get back up and they'd line up again, they'd call timeout again. They can't do that anymore. And believe it or not, the first game that I had this year, up at Jacksonville State, they were playing, how soon we forget, UTEP. They were playing UTEP. And the UTEP, they called timeout. The quarterback got up there. He looked at the situation. He didn't like it. He's turning around to the referee, timeout. Just ignored him. Just let them play on, Then they got to delay a game. So, but you can't do that anymore. Okay, now these are editorial changes. These are not rules changes, but that sometimes they do change a rule, even though they're just called editorial changes. So, okay, with the 40-second clock running, an official places the ball at the hash mark or between the inbounds mark and is in position to officiate. They added the word is in position to officiate. In other words, the ball can't be snapped or put in play until all the officials are in position to officiate. And that would be in the college, the center judge, in high school, the umpire. He actually puts the ball down. So everything in blue is what they've added. When the team's charged timeouts are exhausted, are not available, and then request a timeout, then we just don't acknowledge it, just like we did in that game that I had in Jacksonville. Okay, a scrimmage kick made when a kicker's a scrimmage kick made when the kicker's entire body and the ball is or has been beyond the neutral zone is an illegal kick. So what they've done is last year what it was if he was in advance of the neutral zone, then it was an illegal kick. Now they've added and the ball is or has been. What they've done is they've made this consistent with an illegal forward pass, because with an illegal forward pass, if the quarterback goes in advance of the neutral zone, then comes back behind the neutral zone and throws it, it's still an illegal pass, even though he's behind the neutral zone, because he went in front of it and came back. So they just made the kicking more consistent with the passing rule. Clarifying language to reflect a try and extra periods, third or subsequent extra periods. So all they're saying here is in the third or subsequent periods, they're gonna go from the 3-yard line. You get one play. I think it's the 25-yard line the first time, and then the second time it's from the 3, and you gotta go for 2, and then it's like an extra point. You get one play, each team gets one play. So they just added that.
Hey, Larry,
Yeah,
will you go back one slide, because I have a question?
okay, if I know how here, let's see here. I've gotta go this way. There we go.
Say that first one again.
With the 40-second clock running, an official places the ball at the hash mark or between the inbounds marks and is in a position to officiate.
So I don't have to wait until he does that, I can just go ahead and start the 40 like I always do?
Yeah, you're supposed to start the 40 as soon as the play's over. You
Right.
go 1,001 and start the 40-second clock, yeah.
Okay,
So it doesn't change what you're doing. It
perfect.
just changes when they're gonna allow you to put the ball in play. Because a lot of these plays that go tempo or NASCAR or whatever, they just wanna snap it as fast as they can. And a lot of times they don't allow that umpire to get out of the hole there. So they're just saying it can't be put in play until he has the time to get back in his position to officiate. But it doesn't affect what you do at all.
Okay, I just don't want to screw it up any more than I already do.
No, you're fine. Okay, let's see. Okay. Stationary backs lined up with any part of their body inside the tackle box may block below the waist within the tackle box until the ball leaves the tackle box. So what they did was they used to say they would have to shade, shade into the tackle box or shade the tackle on their side. Now they're just saying doesn't matter what part of the body, it doesn't have to have a foot inside, it could be a shoulder inside or an elbow inside or whatever. They just need to be a body part inside the tackle box, and then they can block below the waist, but it can only be from the front. All other Team B players, okay, this was changed last year because of a play, I forgot the game, but the quarterback handed the ball off and got tackled, and because the tackler thought he still had the ball, and he got tackled, and so they wanted some clarification on that. They wanted to have a personal foul on the guy that tackled the quarterback, but they didn't get it called, so what they did was they clarified it. So they say that all Team B players are not allowed to block below the waist except against a runner. And that's what they were saying, is that the guy blocked the quarterback below the waist, even though he's trying to tackle him. So it was ball carrier, now it's just runner. So that puts everybody. The kicker's protection under this rule ends. Okay, if you'll remember a few years ago, there was a rule that came out that said that if the kicker carries the ball or possesses the ball outside the tackle box, he loses his protection. Okay, so last year, I think it was a Missouri game or Mississippi game, started with an M. The snap went over the punter's head, about 15 or 20 yards over his head, and he ran back there and ran around and kicked the ball, and he was still within the confines of the tackle box. And it was an SEC game, I know that. I think it was Missouri. And they didn't throw a flag. They had a big conversation about it. Well, that had a lot of talk during the season and during the off season. So what they've done is they've said that, or when the kicker carries or possesses the ball more than 5 yards behind the kicker's initial position at the snap from scrimmage kick formation. So scrimmage kick formation is when you've got a person that's 10 yards or more deep in position where he could potentially kick a ball. That's scrimmage kick formation. So what they're saying, so if you've got the ball at the 35, it's being snapped from the 35, well then if he's at 25, that's 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage, right? So he's got to be 10 yards deep. So if that ball goes over his head and he runs around there and tries to kick it, well then he's lost his protection. So if he kicks it at 15 or 20 yards deep, or actually, 6 yards deep in this case. That'd be a little, you're splitting hairs right there, but let's say 7 or 8 yards deep. Well, then you could, he would not have his protection from roughing or running into. Okay, was that the last? Okay. Oh, UIL only. This is only from the for UIL games. The NCAA doesn't have this rule. And this is Coach King rule. He brought this in. If team A is in scrimmage, if team A is in a formation to attempt a place kick, a field goal, or a try, it is illegal for a defensive player to immediately run forward at or just after the snap and initiate contact indicated by the forward movement of the defensive player with an offensive player within 1 second after the snap. It is not a foul if the defensive player is lined up in a 3 or 4 point stance and is aligned in a stationary position within 1 yard of the line of scrimmage when the ball is snapped. Incidental or slight contact should be ignored. So all that's, and Coach Betzel was just telling me that they had this done on them Friday night. So if you're lined up for an extra point, let's say, and everybody knows what a 2 or 3 point, you know what a 2 point stance is. This is like a 2 point stance. 3 point stance is 1 down, 4 points down, there's two arms on the ground, and your legs, and your feet, naturally. So that's a 4 point stance. So what they're saying is if you're standing up on the line of scrimmage within a yard of the line of scrimmage, you can't charge in over an offensive lineman and knock, they were knocking them down and they didn't think they had a fair chance to defend themselves. Now, for years, the snapper, you've had to wait 1 second before you could hit the snapper when you're lined up in scrimmage kick formation. So this is kind of going in line with that. So you've got your offensive linemen that are down, and now this guy's lined up 3 or 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and he takes a running lead. Let's see.
Like he's trying to time the snap?
Right. So, let's see. So you have to wait at least 1 second before he can actually make contact. Now, if he's down on the line of scrimmage in a 3 or 4 point stance, well, then he can charge out immediately, okay? So anyway.
He can't be running at the time the ball is snapped.
No, because he has to wait, give him a second. And that, how long is a second? 1001, that's a second. Okay, we're gonna have a little fun here. So, now, I put this in just to kind of give you an idea of what it's like to be down there. So, let's say they were at Buckeye Stadium, they're playing Pleasant Grove, and the scores, we'll get to the score in a minute. And, what do we got, 8,000 people down there? Is that what it seats? 7,000, 8,000 people? Okay, there's 8,000 people down there screaming their heads off, and it's a close ball game. So this is something that can happen and I'm not, mistakes are made, believe me. We make them at the college level, they make them at the high school level. Guess what? They even make them at the pro level. Every week there's somebody who makes a mistake somewhere. At some level of football, there's a mistake in a rule, a misapplied rule or whatever. But I want to just kind of give you an example of the pressure some of these guys are under and how fast you have to think, and just one little thing can make a whole lot of difference on what happens. So Coach Metzel, why don't you read this one?
Punter A6's punt is partially blocked. The ball never crosses the line of scrimmage. While the ball is loose behind the line of scrimmage, B55 holds A22 to prevent him from getting the ball at A18. B10 secures the ball and runs to the A5 where he is tackled.
Okay, so we're good there. We had a punt that gets blocked, never crosses the line of scrimmage. Somebody picks it up and they run to the A5, which the A5 is the offensive team's 5 yard line. Okay. Now let's change it up a little bit. Bill, why don't you read this part of it?
Now let's change it up a little.
Okay.
Okay. 412, A.
Okay, it's 4th and 12 at the A20. 4th and 12 at the A20.
Printer, A6, punter, Man, that's kind
Hard to see it.
of. Punter A6's punt strikes the ground at the A22 and bounces behind the line of scrimmage. While the ball is loose behind the line of scrimmage, B55 holds A22 at the A18 to prevent him from getting the ball. B10 secures the ball, the A15, and runs to the A5 where he is blocked,
Where he's tackled.
where he is tackled.
Okay, let's stop right there. Okay, so does this sound kind of familiar like the other scenario? Right? It's kind of the same, going along the same lines. Okay, so imagine this happens in the fourth quarter of the game with Team A, which is Pleasant Grove, leading 14-13 over Gilmer with 4:35 on the clock. Things can get a little hairy in this situation because there is a difference between these two statements. There is a big difference. So you got 8,000 people screaming their heads off. You got coaches screaming their heads off because one coach thinks, I got the ball. The other coach thinks, well, I'm going to score because I got it on the 5-yard line. And you've got 7 officials out there that are trying to figure out what the heck we're going to do. You know, what's going to happen. Now, this play is called, the play is involving post-scrimmage kick enforcement. Now, this particular, and the reason I chose this is because this might happen to a crew maybe 2 times a year, maybe 3 times a year, but it doesn't happen a whole lot. I happen to be lucky enough at West Texas A&M, the first game of the season on a Thursday night, the first punt of the season, post-scrimmage kick enforcement. Of course, you know, we talked about it, so we got it right, but I'm just saying, you never know when it's going to crop its little head up, but it can, and it can get tricky. So anyway, so we're here, we're discussing it, and we come, and I know you don't know the rules, so we're not going to go there, but I'm just going to show you what happened. This is basically the same play, but a little change in what happens makes a huge effect on the outcome of the game. In these 2 scenarios, it's critical to know how and what to do. I gave this presentation to some officials, so that's why it said this question was in that presentation. So how you handle this could be a game changer. So in scenario 1, it's going to be A's ball, 1st and 10 on the A30. The reason being, the ball never crossed the line of scrimmage. Never went across the line of scrimmage. In scenario B, or scenario 2, it's going to be B's ball, 1st and 10 at the A28, because the ball crossed the line of scrimmage. So in all that talking and all that, you know, the hubbub that's going on in this critical moment, if somebody doesn't come up and say, well, hey, the ball crossed the line of scrimmage, we can't give it to A, we got to give it to B, you know. You could blow the, I mean, it would be a game changer. You know, it would be a game changer. Which is too bad because that team might have had an opportunity to win, or that other team, if it didn't go across the line of scrimmage, they could have had an opportunity to burn the clock and win the game. So anyway, that's just kind of an example of what can happen. And in these types of plays similar to that happen every Friday night, every Saturday, every Sunday. And so these guys, I mean, they like those questions you just read. I take 3 or 4 tests a week with similar type questions. If A did this on the A32 and B did that to A on the A37, then who's, you know, you just go back and forth and back and forth. So it can get kind of tricky. So any questions on any of this? Good.
Who's on first?
What's on no questions? Okay. So if we got a little time, I'd like to show you a couple of things that we do in the replay booth. In fact, I'm going to show you mine and Todd's stops this past week, and just let you see see how it actually works here. Because I can truthfully tell you this, that I've probably officiated probably close to 200 college football games over my career, and I never knew what was going on. I didn't have the booth for most of them, and I didn't know what was going on in the booth until I actually got up there, so. Okay, so I'm gonna show you a play here. And there'll be some audio, I can turn it down.
The way that one went down?
Yeah, the crazy part of that is going into that game, I believe Liberty was like a
Okay, so it'll play here just a second here. Okay, this is here we go. Yeah, watch well, okay, here, okay, we're stopping the game right here. Now, they'll come back and play the play in just a second. Here we go. Now watch that, watch it. Okay. Okay, so that happened, and my job in the booth is to say, I've got smoke on the tackle, possible targeting. And that's what I said. I said, I've got smoke, possible targeting on the tackle. And I said, but I don't see an indicator. And the indicators are in a crouch and a launch, leading with the crown. So, you know, there's three or four indicators that lead us towards making a decision whether there might be targeting or not. So, but I said we might want to stop it and take a look at it. So we stopped it. Now, another thing there's two types of targeting. I know. Okay, so I know that you guys have heard the word targeting in football games a lot. And it doesn't happen very often in high school. But it does in college, and in pro they don't have it. But in college it does happen quite a bit. So this is what I saw from the booth right here. Is that number 24 has got his head leading with the crown of the helmet. And then another thing, you've got two types of targeting. You've got 913, which is crown of helmet. In other words, doesn't matter. If I hit you with the crown and helmet, it's a target. And then there's called 914, which has to do with the defenseless player, which in this case, this receiver here is what we're going to consider a defenseless player. Okay, so if you're a defenseless player, then what you can do is if you have contact to the head or neck area with your helmet or your elbow or your hand or your shoulder or whatever, it can be targeting, okay? So in this case, and you have to have an indicator too. So you got to piece together all these elements of targeting in order to make a targeting call. So they didn't call targeting on the field, which was which was good. But then I looked at it and I said, we better look at it because we got crown and helmet involved. So if this would have been, if his helmet would have been up a little bit and he hit him right there, then we would have had a targeting. We would have had what's called a 914 targeting. But in this case, when we stopped it and took a better look at it, you can see, and I wasn't really considering this guy defenseless at the time. It's only today when we got our grade that the supervisor said he was defenseless. So I'm going with what the supervisor says, he was defenseless. But anyway, so it ended up not being a target, and we get correct judgment if we get it correct. So we got a correct judgment for stopping the game to review for targeting. But it could have been if his helmet would have been up into the head or neck area. And again, there's no indicator because the defender's just standing there like this, waiting for the guy to hit him. Now if he'd have launched up, well, then we'd have had a different story.
I know any targeting call is a rejection, is that right?
Ejection. Well, it's a disqualification. They don't like to use the word ejection.
Disqualification.
Yeah. So this happened in the first half.
Supposed to make the determination.
What?
You have to look at every aspect before you make that.
That's a good question. Phil's got a good question here. we have to confirm every element of targeting before we can before we can put a targeting on, okay? So in this case, we can confirm crown of helmet, but then we can't see an indicator, so we can't put targeting on there. Now, if he would have jumped into him or came, something that would have had to been a leap or a launch here, then we could have said, well, he launches into him and he hits him with the crown of the helmet, so we could have a 913. So, but there was no indicator, so we couldn't put all the pieces of targeting together on this play, so we just had to say, we're confirming the ruling on the field of no targeting, and that's what we did.
Larry, so when you made that call to your crew from the booth, did they have to throw a flag while y'all were talking about that?
No, they don't throw, no, if we put a targeting on the field, no flag is thrown. Okay?
I mean, if you pause the game for a review for whatever reason, how do you pause the game? I mean, what?
Okay, well, the replay official standing next to me, he says, stop the game. And I get on, I have a system that I'm hooked up to every official on the field, and I say, stop the game, stop the game, stop the game, just like that. And then the referee, that's when the referee came over there, and previous plays under further review for potential targeting, so yeah. But they would not put a flag down. Let's say we call targeting on this. Well, they wouldn't put a flag down, it'd just be a booth-initiated targeting call, okay? Okay, let's look at,
Larry,
yeah.
why is that runner defenseless?
Okay, that's a good question.
Didn't he take several steps?
Well, he does, but does he have time to truly, be able to absorb the hit? A defenseless player, and the reason he's not a defenseless player is because there's three elements of a catch. You have to catch the ball, have possession of the ball. You have to have a body part down, which means feet on the ground, elbow on the ground, something on the ground, and an element of time. And the element of time here, now, and we watched this in fast speed. In other words, I had a long conversation with a friend of mine who's been in the replay booth for about 12, 14 years over this same thing last week about, I watched the play in full speed and I thought, well, it could be, is he defenseless or not? I don't think he is but I slowed it down in slow motion and I thought, he caught the ball, he tucked it, he went 4 yards. But when you look at it full speed, it's bang, bang. And if I show you this in full speed, it's bang, bang. And we want a bang, bang to be an incomplete pass, So in other words, he is defenseless right here because he hasn't had a chance. He hadn't had a chance to absorb a hit or make they say make a football move, a move common to the game of football, which would be to tuck the ball and turn and do that. It happens. I don't know if I've got it in fast or not. Let's see here. Let's back it up. Because the TV camera slows some of this down. Okay, let's see. They just didn't think he had time to have time to make it's pretty quick. In full speed, it's pretty quick. You're looking at it in slow motion. Let's see if I've got, this might be full speed. Well, anyway, they put the football there. Let's look at another one here. In that scenario, Okay, this play happens in the fourth quarter. You can see the score 33-17, 9:43 in the fourth quarter. and New Mexico State's got the ball, they're driving. So if they score, it'll be 33-24 with a lot of time left in the game. So quarterback scrambles. Okay, what do you got? He's behind the line of scrimmage. Okay, so the ruling on the field is incomplete forward pass. So this is a pretty big play during this game because Liberty is intercepting the ball. So that means they're gonna have the ball and take it away from New Mexico State, which, you know, is a bad thing for them because they're marching down there to try to make this thing closer. So what we have to do, I'll show you what happens here. If I can get to it. Let's see. Okay, so does he have a body, does he have possession of the ball? We don't know because we can't see it. But does he have a body part down? Got the split down right there. Then he maintains, of course, he doesn't have to maintain control of the ball because he was an upright receiver. If you're a receiver going to the ground, there's one more element, you gotta maintain control of the ball. Okay, so let's move on over here. I think this is. I want to show you what we're looking at up there. I think it's right in here. And what we did was we reversed the call to an interception to a completed pass. And the way we did that was on our screen, if I can get it to go, here we go. Gotta back it up just a little bit. I'll let this play through, but what we have in the booth is we have a monitor, which is smaller than that, but we have a couple of monitors. And we've got what's called a multi-view. We've got like 12 shots up there. And we can take, and what we did was we could take our fingers and move these pieces around, and we took one piece and put it here, and one piece and put it there, where we could see the ball and its toe at the same time. And that's where the decision was made to reverse it to a completed, an intercepted pass. So, I thought I could get it up there. It's somewhere on here, but I don't want to take any more time trying to find that one. Anyway, it's pretty interesting up there. Like I said, I called a whole lot of football, and I didn't even know what went on up there until I got involved with it. And it's a whole different way. The guys on the field on Friday nights Saturdays, whatever, it's a whole different way to officiate a ball game. I mean, we're looking at things they don't even consider on the field. You just throw your flag, and we're looking at, did his elbow touch before, whatever, so anyway, any questions? Thanks again for having me, enjoyed it, and, good luck to the Buckeyes.
Larry, it's always a pleasure for you to be here. Thank you. So Alan's getting on hold of referee A.